are.
Yes, you have all the power. You have all the power, and it's not enough. You also want to be able to wipe out the people with less power. Sarah, you're taking me all the way up to the news, or at least to the break. Simon Calder's been in touch, the doyen of travel correspondence. I mention that because his qualifications for the contribution he makes to the programme are impeccable. He tells us Luxembourg is not a pesky principality. It is, in fact, a grand duchy. It was also the first country in the world with completely free public transport. The crafty villains.
LBC.
Thanks, Mel. If you could sort out those other deliveries, that would be great. Cheers. Bye.
No matter where your team is working from, Three's Business Boost is here to help businesses adapt and thrive. For just £20 a month, they're offering businesses 10 SIM-only plans with unlimited calls and texts. That's just £2 per SIM. Each plan is on a flexible 30-day rolling contract, so you can use them for as long as you need. But hurry, only the first 2020 businesses can redeem the offer, and it's one per business. So give your business a boost this year. Search 3 Business. Terms apply. Offer ends 26th of March 2021.
Wines or rare whiskies, you could sell them effortlessly at thelondonwinecellar.com with hundreds of 5-star reviews at Google. We short. We'll get back with a cash offer you'll love. No waiting for brokers or auctions. The London Wine Cellar guarantee to beat any competitor's cash offer with immediate payment terms, conditions and guarantee information on our website. From one special bottle to an investment portfolio, look no further. Visit thelondonwinecellar.com.
What am I looking forward to most? A huge Sunday lunch, surrounded by family.
The biggest hugs from my nan.
Finally being able to burst my social bubble.
At Trusted PPE, we're looking forward to getting back to normal as much as you are. So let's all pull together and do our bit to help stop the spread once and for all. In the meantime, look after each other and stay safe with trustedppe.co. Rated excellent on Trustpilot. This Christmas, save £144 on the brilliant Samsung Galaxy S20 FG at Vodafone. Now only £51 a month plus £29 up front with 100 gigs of data. Keep connecting this Christmas on the UK's best mobile data network. Ready? Vodafone.
Offer ends 21st of December. RPI increase minimum term agreement and terms apply. 5G subject to coverage. Award verification details and saving info at vodafone.co.uk.
When Co-op members buy our award-winning irresistible beach and oak smoke salmon, expertly matured and responsibly sourced, we'll give back to your local community. We can all do our bit this Christmas. Co-op is what we do. 2p for every £1 spent goes to communities. T's and C's apply. Visit co-op.co.uk/membership.
Loren here runs her own hot yoga business. Working on her warrior pose and on her finances. That's why she...
His flurry of goals continue.
Smashing header.
Or will Pep be walking in a city wonderland?
Absolutely superb from City.
Get Sky Sports Premier League and Sky Sports Football for just £18 extra a month. Search Get Sky Sports and upgrade today. Sky TV required. Offer ends 31st of December. Further terms apply.
Hi there, Mrs. Claus here. If I were you, I'd check out the brilliant Samsung Galaxy Tab S7 Plus 5G, which you can claim up to £120 cashback on. Plus, get a £30 cashback boost when you buy a second product from the offer range, because honestly, he's about as organised as a drawer of odd socks.
Coming beer.
Make their year with Galaxy. Get the Samsung Galaxy Tab S7 Plus 5G with Google Apps from participating retailers or Samsung.com now. Purchased by the 20th of December 2020. Claim from Samsung within 30 days of purchase. Only one cashback boost of £30 may be claimed. T's and C's apply. Google is a trademark of Google LLC.
This is LBC with James O'Brien. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
11:49 is the time. What did you think was going to happen by now if you voted for Brexit? Because I suppose you could call me and claim that you knew that this was going to happen, but then oddly you'd be in complete agreement with me, because I started explaining about 3 years ago why eventually all you'd have left to shout about would be fish. But that might be fun. Give me a buzz, or if you're, dare I say, a little bit more honest or a little bit more open-eyed, clear-eyed, you could give me a ring and tell me where you actually thought we'd be, what you actually thought would happen. Because the choice between a pretty rubbish deal or, even worse, no deal at all certainly wasn't, to my mind, what anybody voted for. And the idea that Boris Johnson is now essentially in charge of making that decision, chilling, isn't it? Or not. I mean, give me a ring and tell me why it's actually brilliant. And this is exactly what you were looking forward to most. And you are already halfway up the sunlit uplands while simultaneously having your cake and eating it. I feel bad for keeping Kevin on hold because he's been there for ages. So I might take Kevin's call briefly, or seeing as he's in France, vite. And then we'll turn to our political editor, Theo Usherwood, for an update on, presumably, Theo, in a word.
Lots happening.
Nothing's happening. Nothing at all. Nothing's happened. Theo will be here with an urgent update shortly to tell us nothing. And that's Brexit in yet another nutshell. Kevin is in the Three Valleys in France, in the Alps indeed. Kevin, what would you like to say?
Oh, hi James, thanks for taking the call.
You're very welcome.
His vote. And if he keeps Brexit on the agenda, the best way to do that is not to sort out Brexit with a trade deal and to end up in this clash which could run into next year. We could have queues along the motorways with lorries trying to cross into the European Union, lengthy checks. You could have all sorts of problems potentially with the vaccine being flown into this country. And of course,
that was the story yesterday. In normal circumstances, we'd be screaming from the rooftops. We're worried about our ports.
We've spent £700 million, James Cleverly, the Foreign Office Minister, said this morning, ensuring that the vaccine can come into the UK from Belgium, where it's being manufactured and stored, into the UK without any hold-ups at the border, in the event of a no deal.
So it's cost us £700 million already. Or yes. We will spend it in the event of it. Because even if there's a deal, there's going to be massive hold-ups at the ports. Our friend John Shirley was on Newsnight on Friday. Better late than that.
But what I'm saying is that in terms of the advantage of a no, not the advantage, in terms of why there might be a no deal, I'd be reason. But then on the other hand, we understand, of course, from the forecast from the OBR during the spending review, growth would be, the recovery from the pandemic would be much slower. In the event of a no deal, as the Prime Minister refers to, an Australia-style arrangement, and the implications on the border with queues.
Except I know this isn't you, because what Theo said there, he said as the Prime Minister describes it, an Australia-style arrangement. So it's not Theo's fault that that's not true. Australia has a whole heap of trade deals that we will not have in the event of us adopting what the Prime Minister likes to call an Australia-style arrangement. They're also desperately pursuing a free trade agreement with the European Union, as indeed, arguably, is every sensible market on the planet, which leaves you wondering how you describe a market on the planet that was walking away from a trade agreement with the European Union. In fact, Theo, I think technically it's fair to say that Brexit will make the free trade area in which England operates and Scotland and Wales smaller than the United Kingdom.
Yes.
It's 12 noon.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 12 o'clock, the EU's chief Brexit negotiator is said to have given a downbeat assessment of progress in trade talks. Michel Barnier updated ambassadors this morning before discussions resumed with his UK counterpart, Lord Frost. Both sides have rejected reports of a breakthrough on fishing rights. Andrew Locker, who runs a fishing business in Whitby, says the delays are frustrating.
We understand how difficult it will be to negotiate this deal because of what's being promised to us. If Boris Johnson and his government backtrack on that, I think his position is untenable. On the EU side, it's very difficult for them to change from their mandate because they know the repercussions of what they'll face back home.
Boris Johnson and the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen will take stock of talks in a call this evening. Leading nurses have warned getting people to return for their second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine will be a key challenge in the rollout. People who received the jab will be given 2 injections 3 weeks apart. Hospitals are due to begin the immunisation programme tomorrow. Dr. David Navarro of the World Health says it's not the time for people to let their guard down.
Even if you're tempted to say, well, I'll take a few risks and take a few chances and it doesn't matter, if we all start taking risks and chances, we'll be back into another big surge in early next year, and then there'll be further restriction.
An inquiry's heard Hashim Obeidi has admitted involvement in planning the Manchester arena bombing for the first time. The brother of the suicide bomber, Salman Obeidi, made the admission to a legal team in prison last month. The 23-year-old was found guilty of 22 counts of murder earlier this year after pleading not guilty to involvement in the 2017 attack. The owner of B&Q has pledged to return millions of pounds in coronavirus business rates relief. Firms including Morrisons, Tesco and Sainsbury's made similar announcements last week. DIY retailers fared particularly well during the lockdown, when many people decided to take on home improvements. The UK's first all-electric car charging forecourt has opened in Essex. Up to 36 cars can use superfast chargers which use renewable energy at the GridServe site in Braintree. There are plans for more than 100 of the stations to cope with the take-up of electric vehicles. In the city a short time ago, the FTSE 100 was up 22 at 65.72. The pound buys $1.34 and €1.10. And the weather, most areas staying dry except for some coastal showers, turning wet and windy over northern and eastern Scotland later, and feeling chilly, a high of 6 Celsius. From Global's newsroom, I'm Thomas Watts.
At Tesco, every little helps goes way beyond helping with your shopping. A little help is
donating 2 million meals a month to local communities, or supporting 350 young farmers to get started.
A little help is training over 1,000 community cooks with Jamie Oliver,
or helping us build a new football pitch.
It's 5,000 free phones from Tesco Mobile,
so we can all stay connected.
A little help makes a big difference.
Tesco. Every little helps. Equivalent meals based on average monthly donations in 2019 and 2020 and 420 gram meal weight.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with James O'Brien.
4 minutes after 12 is the time. You see, the problem I've got now is if I say, what are you most looking forward to as a Brexit supporter, is it sounds facetious. I don't know when that became true, because I would genuinely have meant it as a question a few years ago. What are you most looking forward to? You know, and if you were a fisherman perhaps in Cornwall, a lot of you are pointing out that Luxembourg is landlocked, therefore it is unlikely that their fishermen and women had grand designs upon the English Channel. I didn't think that needed to be pointed out. There was enough going on. But what are you most looking forward to and why, as in the improvements to your own life? It's going to sound close to facetious, but if you want to take that question in the spirit that it's asked, which is in good faith, the number you need is 0345 6060 973. Challenge the idea that things have gone badly, please. If you're still persuaded that this is all part of the plan, this is exactly what you knew was going to happen and exactly what you wanted, then 0345 6060 973 is the number that you need. Listen back if you want to my call with Martin. I can assure you of my politeness at all times. And then I guess the question of why you think it's come to this. I'm not clear yet on when pennies drop who's going to get the blame for what the Brexiters have done to the country, because I'm fairly confident unless the ownership of every newspaper in the land changes hands overnight, then it's not going to be the people who did it. I saw one thing. Mandelson made a comment last week that some people jumped on, suggesting that people who were keen to secure a second referendum bore responsibility for the current state of affairs. That was interesting for two reasons. The first is that everybody jumping on it, possibly without realising it, and saying, yeah, it's all the Remainers' fault, is actually admitting that it's all gone horribly wrong, which in other contexts they're not actually ready to admit yet. And the second thing is Mandelson was just wrong. This is the problem with footballification. People who think Peter Mandelson has been wrong about everything for his entire life. Yeah. He says something that they would love to agree with if it was true, so they'll pretend it was true and that he's a genius. Mandelson hovered way above. From Lancaster House onwards, from the Red Lines, from the abolition of the freedom of movement, where we are now became inevitable. There was nothing else to do except try to get another vote. As Jacob Rees-Mogg famously observed, and for once quite correctly, you have a vote on whether you want a referendum, and then you have on whether you want to leave, and then if you do say yes, we want to leave, you have another vote on what it looks like once it's been written down. So we should, at the end of this week, have another referendum. We can't, just for the record, before anybody gets their hopes up. That is clearly what should have happened. So if a deal is negotiated, we get the deal explained to us in detail and we decide, is that better than staying in? And if there's no deal, we have a proper understanding of the consequences of that, and we decide whether or not that is better than staying in. Okay? And now, I don't know whether anyone's going to look me in the eye and tell me that if we actually end up with no deal, and you had a referendum on that, you'd still see a victory for the 52%. I just don't know. 7 after 12 is the time. Mervyn is in Croydon. Mervyn, what would you like to say?
Hi, James. I've got quite a simple philosophy, and I want a no deal on the grounds that I want to retain control over our fishing waters. And the other thing is,
are you in the industry? Are you linked with fishing?
No, I'm not.
Well, why do you feel so strongly about it, do you think?
I'm 74.
Yeah, well,
I was a fighter pilot in the Air Force for 20 years, and I have a simple view of things. But what I want to now say,
I just want to know why fish is so important in fishing waters.
Because if I owned a fishing pool that I rented out and let people come and fish in, I wouldn't want a load of interlopers coming and saying, because we used to have an agreement years ago, I can still come here.
No one's saying that. We had an agreement. Just out of interest, how many fishing vessels do you think are registered in the UK? Just as a ballpark figure.
I used to work up near Grimsby, and I used to know Grimsby when it was bubbling with fishing vessels, and I know that for whatever silly reason, British people sold off the right to fish in British waters.
And that's not the EU's fault, is it?
No, and that was the mistake of the people around at the time.
Well, that's freedom, though. If I own something, I'm free to sell it to whoever I want, aren't I? But just as a ballpark figure, how many vessels do you think there are? Because I mean, it sounds like I'm haranguing you, but I don't understand this deep prioritization of fishing that you've described yourself as feeling. So, how much do you know about the fishing industry to justify the conclusion that it's more important than many other issues or areas?
When I was a fighter pilot, I used to fly over the North Sea, and I used to see the Grimsby fleet go out, and there were hundreds of boats at the time in the 70s and 80s. How many of
we were in the European Union in the 70s and 80s, or we were in its predecessor, of course.
But as
I do want to.
When you add them all up together, there's probably 500 or a couple of thousand.
Yeah, it's 5,911.
Yeah.
So 10 times what you suggested.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me again why it's so important, if you would.
That's one of the things, but
James, bring it back.
Bring twice as much to us as we to them.
Yes.
And we will make a profit on the import duties. That was the point I wanted to get across as well.
No, the tariffs will be imposed upon us for the fish coming into this country.
That's on the fishing side of things.
Yes.
But of general goods, Europe sells twice as much to us as we to them.
But you're presuming it will just carry on doing so, rather than selling more into markets where there aren't any tariffs, i.e. for each individual European Union member, the other 26 European Union members.
So on that basis, that if things carried on, we would make a profit on the import duties.
Yes, but people aren't going to carry on exporting fish into this country if there are tariffs. They're going to look for markets where there aren't any tariffs, i.e. the other 26 countries that will retain membership.
Well, that's your viewpoint. And
well, what would you do if it was you? If you were in business, and at the moment there are 27 countries into which you can sell without tariffs, and tomorrow there'll be 26. What would you do with the country where it's suddenly going to be more expensive to do business? Would you just carry on as you are, or would you look to the other markets where it will continue to be frictionless?
But I don't think Europe on the fish side sells that much fish to us.
You just said it sells twice as much as we sell to them.
No, on general merchandise and things like that.
Well, I mean, then I have to correct you, if with your permission. We are a net importer of fish. We import more than we export.
Okay. And I spend a lot of time going around Scotland, and all the fishing ports around there, you've got Spanish trucks, and they're just waiting for the trawlers to come in. He gets loaded on the trucks, and he goes down to Spain. And I've only seen a TV program, but Heathrow sells millions of pounds of smoked salmon to the whole world.
Yes. Well, not Heathrow, exactly. I don't think that's a...
No, that's where it gets...
It's the airport where the planes take off from. Anyway, we did just gloss over. I mean, you rang in to make a point that was contingent upon the belief that we're a net exporter of fish. You've now discovered that we're a net importer of fish. I think in 2019, I think we imported, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, 721,000 tonnes of sea fish with a value of £3,457 million. We exported, I think, 400, off the top of my head, 452,000 tonnes with a value of 2,004 million. So your premise, when you kindly rang in, was that you support no deal because we import more fish than because we export more fish than we import. That's categorically untrue. So presumably you've now changed your mind.
On the fish side of things, but on the general merchandise of selling cars...
You rang in to talk about fish. Your exact phrase, I think, was that we'll have our waters back.
Yes.
That's got nothing to do with cars, has it?
No. And the second point I made was that Europe sells twice as much to us. Okay, it wasn't made exactly clear that I was talking about general merchandise.
Well, no, fish. Because you said fish.
We started off with fish.
Yes. That's all right. So you're still confident that we're going to be better off then?
That would be my viewpoint.
Excellent. Oh, let's hope you're right, Margaret. I think we'll all join in that fervent hope. If only there'd been perhaps a scintilla of evidence to support your optimism, then we could be even more supportive of your view. Steve's in Shrewsbury. Steve, what's going on?
Hi, James. I just have to say I find the thought of that guy being in charge of some of the Royal Air Force's finest armoury quite scary.
Well, I don't. I understand why you're saying that, but his understanding of fishing has nothing to do with his bravery or courage while flying in the RAF. But I'm not having a go at either of you.
Yeah, kind of my point is because you are a much better and kinder and nicer person than I am. I'm really basically a bitter old man. When I hear people like Martin earlier on ranting on, it just shows me why we're in this mess. Because the only people stupid enough to vote for Conservatives nowadays are the same people who are stupid enough to still think that Brexit's a good idea.
Well, I feel bad now, especially now you've warned me that you're a bitter old man. I don't want to get my head topped. But I struggle, I'm afraid, to condemn the Conservative voter of December as clearly as you do because of what the options were, actually. And that is a deeply held, sincere view, and I can prove it because I now get more abuse from Jeremy Corbyn fans than I do from Brexiteers.
Well, it's a very fair point because the options were appalling. However, even Corbyn, and that's really saying something that sticks in my throat, is better than this shower of clowns. But it reminds me that earlier on you were talking about the football manager and how, having explained the reason of taking a knee, if you still took offence to it, then you weren't welcome. And my viewpoint is that if people still, despite all the evidence, thinks Brexit's going to be great, and it is great, and keep saying it's great, then, quite frankly, I have no trouble saying you're an idiot. Or a racist.
So the compassion for the conned is extended only to people who admit that they've been conned. You see, I am, you're right, I am a much better, nicer, kinder person than you, because I work on the... I think this is actually, just to really put a cat among the pigeons, I think this is because I was... I came up through Catholic schools. I believe in...
So did I.